The opening scene is set in New York City, where we are introduced to a young boy named Milo. He is confined to a wheelchair, but despite this, he dreams of becoming an astrophysicist. Simultaneously, on a farm in Missouri, a man named Ricky is talking to his friend on the phone. He doesn't notice that an aircraft lands near his house, after which he loses the signal on his device. This signal disruption extends beyond Missouri, becoming a global issue. Soon after, an airplane lands amidst the heart of New York City, with the sky shrouding in fog and a fleet of enormous spacecraft blocking the sun. In the face of this bizarre occurrence, military forces prepare for action while citizens descend into panic. The news reporters speculate an invasion, yet the identity and intentions of these newcomers remain uncertain. In a surprising turn of events, the people are visited by their deceased loved ones, who introduce themselves as Caroline, the alien supervisor for Earth. Government officials label them as overlords. They all convey the same message, that they're here to help the Earthlings and to put an end to suffering, hunger, and sickness. They claim that they're not the conquerors, but the driving force that'll help humanity change, probably by killing it. They assure that everything will be the same except for one thing: injustice. According to them, a new version of Earth known as Utopia will be the new law of the land. In the ensuing days, the world begins to undergo a transformation, just as the aliens promised. Warring people, like Arabs and Jews, come together in harmony. A government meeting reveals that the wars in the Congo, Sudan, and Korea, which could not stop for years, have ended. One evening, Ricky and his girlfriend Ellie are preparing for bed when all the electronic devices in their home go haywire. The residence starts to tremble, so Ricky, Ellie, and their dog retreat down to the basement. Soon after, a mysterious light coming from a droid slowly dismantles their house, forcing Ricky to step outside. The spacecraft opens its door, inviting him inside. Ricky agrees to get in on the condition that they leave his family alone. In response, the droid restores his house to its original state, and Ricky boards the craft to fly away. Elsewhere, the military checkpoints close the area over which the spaceship is hovering. However, a crowd of sick and crippled people try to make their way to the restricted area. Amidst this, a woman steps forward with her sick child and lifts the crying baby up towards the sky. "Please, take him. I don't want him." In the next scene, Ricky finds himself at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York City. He recognizes the hotel as it's the same place where he and his late wife Annabelle had celebrated their honeymoon in the past. Before long, a disembodied voice introduces himself as Caroline and proposes that Ricky serve as a liaison between the overlords and Earth's inhabitants. Confused and hesitant, Ricky suggests that someone with more political influence should be chosen for this role. However, the voice mentions that Ricky is the most suitable candidate due to his honesty, trustworthiness, and because his name will remind everyone of Trailer Park Boys, which always brings a smile. The alien also provides him with a shiny device whose design is futuristic, but its purpose is unknown. Meanwhile, the government officials learn of Ricky's abduction, so a U.S. secret agent named Paul Danlow decides to visit Ricky's farmhouse for additional information. By the time he reaches it, several news reporters surround the area to cover the event. Coincidentally, at the same moment, the droid drops Ricky off and departs. Following this, Paul summons Ricky for a private conversation, during which he demands the surrender of the shiny device. When Ricky resists, Paul holds him at gunpoint, leaving our guy with no choice but to comply. However, as Ricky proceeds to hand over the device, he opens its lid, activating some sort of unknown force. As a consequence, the crying baby from earlier mysteriously gets healed. Hours later, similar reports come from around the world, as various diseases, even the incurable ones, are inexplicably cured. College students everywhere are free of chlamydia. Afterwards, Ricky is summoned to the White House for a press conference. There he tries to take things slowly by introducing himself as a mediator between the overlords and Earth's inhabitants. However, the situation quickly spirals out of control as reporters press for more information about the aliens. They pose numerous inquiries about Carolyn's appearance and the contents of the droid, none of which Ricky can answer. All he can say for certain is that those things they just showed off in Mexico are fake as shit. In the next meeting, Ricky asks Carolyn to reveal himself, but the latter claims that the world is not ready to see him yet. As the days pass by, die, Ricky is summoned to numerous meetings to deliberate on the future of Earth. The information discussed in these meetings is then relayed to the public through conferences. Ambitious agendas are set, including the eradication of poverty, disease, and the maintenance of global peace. In the midst of these developments, Ellie discovers that Annabelle had visited Ricky earlier, and the Four Seasons Hotel holds sentimental value as their honeymoon suite. This revelation understandably saddens her, but despite her feelings, she assures Ricky of her unwavering support. In just 6 months, the Overlords, with Ricky's assistance, successfully eliminate warfare, hunger, and poverty from the world. They got a long way to go before they get rid of stupidity, though. However, there remains a faction of humans who are hesitant to trust the aliens, suspecting ulterior motives, such as an invasion. A resistance movement known as the Freedom League, funded by media tycoon Hugo Wainwright, is gaining a lot of followers. They start spreading doubt in Karellin's patronage, filling the streets with protests. Ricky conveys this information to Karellin and again tries to persuade him to reveal himself. He claims that it will foster trust, but the alien continues to decline such requests.
"But what if they laugh at my nose?"
says Karellin. On the other hand, Milo is constantly dedicating himself to gathering the information about the aliens and is trying to figure out how their era works. He uses his extraordinary intelligence to write an essay about the same that earns him a complete scholarship in a new school. According to his research, the Overlords are 30,000 years ahead of Earthlings. One evening, Milo witnesses his mother making a purchase from a local dealer and expressing dissatisfaction with the quality of the goods. When she requests a refund, the dealer slaps her and busts out a firearm. Milo intervenes and confronts the dealer, leading into a heated argument. As a result of this, the dealer shoots Milo in the chest, killing him instantly. But just a few seconds later, a beam of light descends from the sky, emitting a mysterious force. It instantaneously kills the dealer and miraculously revives Milo. Not only is Milo brought back to life, but he also gains the ability to walk. Back in Missouri, Ricky and Ellie are having dinner when the latter candidly expresses her discontent with what's going on. She believes that the aliens are playing with his mind, and this is why they aren't allowing him to move on from his past. Thus, she attempts to persuade him not to continue working for the Overlords. But despite her concerns, Ricky insists that it's his responsibility, as he sees himself working for the betterment of the entire world. In addition, Ellie is also sad, as they are unable to have children despite their best attempts. The reason for this is unknown, however. Their conversation is abruptly disrupted by their dogs barking. Ricky steps outside to check, only to be unexpectedly knocked out by some people. A short while later, he regains his consciousness and finds out that he has been abducted by the Freedom League militants. Ricky is then taken to a remote base, supervised by Hugo. Upon arriving at the massive underground bunker, Hugo proposes that they regain control from the Overlords by destroying the positive changes they've brought to humanity. He also asks Ricky to join the Freedom League. Is there free beer? No. Sounds like garbage. Unbeknownst to him, Karellin is broadcasting their entire communication to the public. Ricky refuses to participate in such an awful plan, which enrages Hugo. On his order, the League members pull out their guns and shoot towards him, but just moments before the bullets can reach him, the Overlords freeze time around Ricky and terminate the broadcast. At that moment, a door opens and Annabelle appears, calling Ricky inside. However, he asks her not to come to him again because he has already buried her memory and wants to move on. Shortly after, Ricky is dropped back at his farmhouse, safe and sound. The following day, he attends another meeting with Karellin, during which the alien figure behind the mirror informs him that the Freedom League is disbanding. Karellin anticipates that the states will soon unite, and people will live happily ever after. He thanks Ricky for his service, and indicates that his assistance is no longer needed. Just before Ricky is sent back, he manages to capture a photograph of the mirror, behind which Karellin always hides. Upon returning home, he reviews the image with Ellie, and they they understand the reason why Karellen wanted to keep himself hidden. Now that Ricky is free from his work, he decides to begin a new chapter of his life and proposes to Ellie for marriage. The scene then fast forwards 15 years, revealing that Milo has now graduated from MIT and works as an astrophysicist at the World Federation, a new unified government on Earth. The present world is completely different as compared to the past, as the aliens have successfully achieved their goals. Now, Karellen finally decides to reveal himself to the general public. For this, a huge event is prepared at a stadium, and the people appear very excited to meet their guardian angel. Not long after, a giant spaceship lands on the stadium, and two kids enter to escort Karellen out. Much to everyone's shock, Karellen looks exactly like a devil, complete with horns, wings, red skin, and a tail, and a bare cherubic ass. The scene then cuts to 4 years later, and it's now the year 2035. The golden age has indeed arrived for mankind, as inequality, crime, and war are all gone. People have renewable green energy and enough food for the entire planet. Earth has become a paradise, and the humans are living healthy lives. Despite these overwhelmingly positive changes, Milo, for some reason, is worried about the future. Moreover, he is laid off from his astrophysics post, as all space research programs are being terminated. But before he leaves for South Africa, Milo makes sure to pocket a few hard drives worth of data on the Overlords, because nobody knows anything about them yet. One night, Ricky is awakened by a beam of light outside his residence. This time, he understands that it's Karellen, so he follows the light to his tool shed. Karellen apologizes to Ricky before confessing some big news. The Earth has a new destiny. A short while later, Ellie walks out in search of her husband, only to notice the droid flying off. She asks Ricky about the matter, but the latter hides the truth and claims that Karellen simply came to check on them. In the next scene, we are shown a large research facility in South Africa that is managed by a health practitioner named Dr. Rupert Boyce. This facility happens to be the same place where Milo currently works with a colleague named Rachel. One day, the entire facility starts to shake, appearing as if it's an earthquake. Rachel notices all their animals panicking in their cages. After a while, Dr. Boyce finds an additional chamber on the facility's ground floor, seemingly created by Karellen. Inside, there is a glowing communication device that looks like a large Ouija board. Dr. Boyce interprets this discovery as a signal that Karellen wants them to establish contact with someone. Astonished, Dr. Boyce says, "Ghosts are real too?" Shit. Later on, Milo seeks out Dr. Boyce and expresses his growing unease regarding the actions of the Overlords. He mentions witnessing unusual behavior among the wild animals in the lab. However, Dr. Boyce dismisses his concern, as he seems to have something different in his mind. He guides Milo to a room filled with figurines of animals, where he discloses that he has been assisting the Overlords in capturing various species of animals and sending them to an alien planet. According to him, only one species is missing from their collection, Homo sapiens. Dr. Boyce hopes that the Overlords will take him to their planet. On the same night, the Overlords pay a visit to the Gregson family, consisting of the father Jake, the mother Amy, and their son Tommy, Lil Tommy Greggs. The droid emits its mysterious light force onto Amy and Tommy, causing them to experience restlessness in their sleep. Afterwards, the craft departs, awakening Tommy. Jake overhears his wife murmuring about saving their children in her sleep and becomes concerned. He wakes her up. Before going to check on Tommy, Jake finds his son in the garage, who is acting in a strange manner. When he tries to approach him, the young boy forcefully shoves him against the wall. The following day, Jake shares the incident with his wife and also points out Tommy's recent bizarre behavior. Amy doesn't believe in his words, but when he insists, they take Tommy to a counselor named Peretta. During their initial session, Tommy confides in Peretta about apocalyptic visions he has been experiencing. He describes being taken by the Overlords to a dark, hot place where a large eye blocks out the sun. "You're just describing Lord of the Rings, Tommy," says Peretta. As Peretta begins to ask too many questions, the voices in Tommy's head become increasingly chaotic, leaving him deeply disturbed. He covers his ears and abruptly exits the room, sending his parents into a state of panic. Meanwhile, an invisible force tightens tightens around the crucifix hanging from Peretta's neck, causing her to choke. But before she can be killed, she manages to remove the chain. Tommy then touches his mother's belly and tells her that the baby has stopped crying. This leaves Amy bewildered, as she isn't pregnant. Following this unsettling encounter, Peretta advises Jake to stay safe before leaving the house, visibly distressed. Meanwhile, in Missouri, a group of people surround Ricky's farmhouse with the intention of gathering info about the overlords. Witnessing their presence, Ricky steps outside to confront them. However, at the same time, his veins begin to swell and turn a crimson hue, causing him to collapse on the ground. Following this, Ricky is rushed to a hospital where the doctor delivers a grim prognosis. It appears that Karelin has poisoned him with some substance, which explains his earlier apology. Upon learning of her husband's limited time left to live, Ellie returns home and activates all electronic devices in an attempt to talk to Karelin, but her efforts prove futile. His cherub ass doesn't show. The next day, Peretta goes to see a church pastor. Although the church has been long abandoned, he diligently maintains the premises. Peretta recounts the recent events at Tommy's home and shows her chain as evidence. In response, the pastor speculates that the overlords are similar to demons from hell, targeting those humans who still hold faith in God. Despite these dire circumstances, he encourages Peretta not to lose hope. 4 months later, Jake and Amy receive an astounding revelation. Amy is pregnant, something which their son knew a long time ago. Despite the shock, they enjoy the good news, and Amy starts considering names for their upcoming baby. After a while of deliberation, she comes up with a name, Jennifer. Strangely enough, Tommy knows the name before Amy can reveal it. One evening, Peretta visits the Gregson family's residence to offer her prayers. During her visit, the alien droid appears directly above their house, projecting a beam of light. Peretta raises her damaged crucifix towards the droid, prompting it to depart. Following this, she rushes to check on the family, finding them unharmed. She attempts to warn them about the evil nature of the overlords, but the family doesn't believe in her claims. Later that night, Peretta learns of Ricky's illness through the news and decides to visit his farmhouse. Upon her arrival, she meets with Ellie and tries to befriend her. In the meantime, Dr. Boyce prepares a special party event at his office building. He sends one of his employees, Morton, to California in order to invite the Gregson family on the pretense of interviewing Jake for a job. Unbeknownst to the Gregsons, Dr. Boyce is following the strict orders of Karelin, who is now after the family. Jake initially hesitates to accept the invitation, but he eventually agrees due to Amy's insistence. The scene then cuts to the night of the party, where a grand hall is packed with the dressed up people, including Milo and Rachel. The Gregson family arrives and meets with Dr. Boyce. Shortly after, Tommy is escorted to an entertainment room, while Dr. Boyce offers to show Amy around the premises. Jake coincidentally meets Milo, and the two engage in conversation. Surprisingly, the latter reveals that the organization is shutting down, and no recruitment is taking place. Sensing that something is amiss, Jake shares this information with his wife before going to find his son. Just then, Karelin, the guest of honor for the evening, makes his entrance at the party venue. He ascends the stage and informs the attendees that with Mr. Boyce's assistance, he has been sending different species of animals to his home planet to establish a zoo. After a brief speech, Karelin instructs Dr. Boyce to bring Amy to the room with the Ouija board for a private talk. Once there, Karelin has Amy's hand on the board, which enables him to communicate with the unborn baby inside her. He then transmits the messages to the skies via a mysterious beam of light. Unable to comprehend what's happening, Dr. Boyce tries to extricate Amy from Karelin's grasp, but she unexpectedly hurls him across the room. Meanwhile, Jake locates Tommy, but the boy's mind appears to be under the control of someone else. As Jake approaches his son, he is forcefully pushed against the wall. Subsequently, Tommy runs towards the roof and jumps off, but instead of falling to the ground, he manages to hover just a few feet above it, avoiding a potentially fatal impact. impact. With this experimentation, Carolyn announces that Amy's job is done. She and Tommy then return to their normal state of mind, and Jake hastily takes them back home. On their way, Amy experiences an immense pain in her stomach, causing her to be rushed to the hospital. On the other hand, Milo, who has been observing the light beam, deduces the purpose behind Carolyn's actions. Carolyn was using Amy and the Ouija board to transmit a message in his native language to interstellar receptors. Later, Milo, accompanied by Rachel, returns to his place and initiates some research. After an entire night of diligent work, he learns that the symbol Carolyn was broadcasting in the sky was the constellation Carina, the Overlord's home world. Thrilled by the discovery, the two end up sharing a romantic kiss, and Milo gets his first half-chub. In the next scene, Carolyn travels back to Missouri to pay Ricky and Ellie a very important visit. He presents them with a vial of medicine, claiming that it possesses the power to completely heal Ricky. Shortly after, Peretta bursts into the scene and accuses Carolyn of deceiving humanity. This makes Carolyn confess that it wasn't Ricky's illness that had caused his sterility, but rather, it was his own doing. He justifies his actions as an act of kindness because the Earth's days are numbered. According to Carolyn, those with children will face significant hardship in the near future, so he chose to spare Ricky from such suffering. Despite the explanation, Peretta grabs a shotgun and fires at Carolyn, killing him on the spot. This makes her feel that the world's problems are finally over. However, a guilt-ridden Ricky suddenly springs into action and administers the vial of miraculous medicine to Carolyn, reviving him from the brink of death. And with his second life, Carolyn tells a crying Peretta that her faith in religion is good, but still in vain, because no one can prevent what's coming. AI. Later that night, Peretta sees the spirit of her mother and follows it until she falls from a balcony, resulting in her tragic demise. Simultaneously, at the hospital, Amy gives birth to the baby girl Jennifer, whose eyes emit a peculiar and vivid green glow. The scene fast forwards to 4 years later, and now the children are stronger than previous generations, with telekinetic and psychic abilities. Milo, who is dating Rachel, wonders how the future generations will be. Back in Missouri, Ricky is still dealing with the effects of his illness, and he attempts to implant small chip-like devices into his arms. Later, he is visited by Carolyn in his backyard, where the alien informs him that the final stage has begun. In the next scene, Milo and Rachel are strolling through the park when they spot a girl raising her hands towards the sky and chanting out Jennifer's name. Not only in the park, but kids all around the world are following suit. Some of the kids even show up at the Gregsons' doorstep, looking for their leader. It appears that only Jennifer has the power to show them worlds beyond Earth. Seeing this unusual phenomena, Jake and Amy decide to relocate to New Athens, where the humans still follow the old way of life. As they drive out of their place, a number of children block their path, but Jennifer effortlessly moves them aside with her extraordinary abilities, taking the parents aback. It's like the story of Moses, but way freaking weirder. As all of this is happening, Milo learns that all the kids are connected to Jennifer. In order to find more information, he tries to reach Jake, but the latter ignores his calls, as he wants his children to live a normal life. As the Gregsons make it to New Athens, they learn that the city fits the time before the overlords arrived. The city is polluted, smelly, overcrowded, and death is always lingering in an alley somewhere. Paradise. Shortly after, the family is welcomed by the city's mayor, Jerry Hallcross. The mayor tells them that they don't have to worry because New Athens is completely different from Utopia. He then gives them a special tour before taking them to their new home. At their new residence, Jake receives a call from Milo one more time. This time, on Amy's suggestion, he agrees to answer the call. Milo requests permission to talk to Jennifer, to which he agrees. Milo then asks Jennifer to look into a mirror and share her visions of the future. In response, the girl asks him to come closer, after which she shares a grim vision of the Earth being engulfed in flames. The vision is so powerful that it destroys the communication device, startling Milo. Jennifer then announces a chilling message.
The end begins.
Determined to protect the Earth, Milo decides to sneak onto the Overlord's spacecraft with an intention to get to their home world. His beloved Rachel disagrees with his idea, but Milo convinces her, assuring that he'll return. Following this, the pair sneaks into the shipment truck, and Rachel, with a heavy heart, places him in a vacuum-sealed bag, just like the other animals. She kisses him goodbye before letting him sleep in the bag. Milo is then transported onto the spaceship, and the ship departs. In the farmhouse, Ricky is presently experiencing intense pain as the small chip-like devices don't help him anymore. Did they ever? Ellie tries to soothe him, but Ricky cries out Annabelle's name, leaving Ellie devastated. At this point, Ricky is teleported back in time and finds himself in the Four Seasons Hotel. There, he begins dwelling via his old reminiscences, but he soon realizes that it's just his obsession. Carolyn, who is also present there, offers to bring her back and slow down the time for him so that he can spend more with her. However, Ricky refuses because it's not real. I mean, you're in the Matrix talking to an alien. Is any of this real? He then makes a bold decision and asks Carolyn to bury the room, deleting the memories once and for all. That night, Ricky steps outside the house and lays down in the yard, gazing up at the sky. Ellie joins him, and Ricky confesses his love for her. As they talk, he slowly passes out and succumbs to his illness. On the other hand, the Gregson family is enjoying an old movie in a cinema hall. When Carolyn suddenly appears on the screen, he addresses the people of Earth one last time, claiming that the Golden Age is coming to an end. He also informs them that the children will all leave the Earth to become superhumans, and no more of them will be born. The adults will have to live out their century in peace, paving the way for a new species. At this moment, a pregnant woman in the hospital freaks out as her baby has gone missing. Following this, Jennifer begins to float in the air and moves towards the sky, followed by all the other children on the planet. The parents cannot believe what is happening, and they cry out in the pain of separation. Jake and Amy hold their son and plead with him to stay, which the boy complies with. The three remaining Gregsons then go in search of the mayor, Jerry. Eventually, they find him at the church in the cemetery, where his daughter is buried. He has a time bomb beside him as he is on the verge of blowing up the entire New Athens. Jerry expresses that there was hope when their children were on Earth, but now there is no reason to live. Jake encourages him not to lose hope and to keep fighting, but the mayor doesn't listen. While they talk, Amy realizes that Tommy is missing and goes out to find him. When she locates him, Tommy informs her that his extra time on Earth has ended, and he must join the rest of the children. Amy can't stop her son and watches him ascend into the sky with a heavy heart. With both of their children now absent from their lives, Amy rejoins Jake amidst his argument with Jerry. She attempts to soothe Jake by reminiscing about their past, about how they met and fell in love. The couple then holds hands, and the bomb detonates, engulfing the entire city. Meanwhile, Jennifer stands atop a hill, gathering energy into a radiant light and sending it into the sky. In the Overlord's spacecraft, Milo struggles for breath and gets himself out of the bag. He hurriedly reaches for his medicine and injects it into his body. Once he stabilizes, he is welcomed by an alien named Vindarton. Vindarton informs him that 40 years have passed on Earth, revealing that they are on the 6th planet in the Carina system. Milo inquires about the condition of Earth, and Vindarton shows a darkish planet which is full of lava. The alien then reveals that the Earth's future was planned millennia ago by the Overmind, the supreme creator. Furthermore, he explains that they simply travel to planets designated by the Overmind and carry out his instructions to alter them. After hearing all of this, Milo requests permission to meet the Overmind, driven by his desire to understand everything. He is then teleported to a white space where he finds an orange shadow that represents the Overmind. In order to help Milo feel secure, it takes the form of Rachel and explains that the children are divine and they can only become part of the whole. When Milo asks if humanity is over, he sees reflections of Rachel and becomes lost in intense light. When he wakes up, 85 years have already passed, and Earth is now abandoned, with all of humanity having died out, leaving him as the last human being. Nevertheless, the Overlords, who wanted to help Milo, present him with an aged, frozen corpse of Rachel. devastated. Milo pulls out the necklace from the body, shattering it into pieces. Corellin consoles the grieving Milo and assures him that Rachel continues to exist as a figment in Milo's mind. The alien generously offers Milo to live the rest of his days on the Overlord's craft. However, he volunteers to return to Earth and report back his findings as a scientist. Upon his return to Earth, Milo sits in the middle of a ruined city on an old couch. He documents everything and sends the information to the Overlords. He reflects on his life from its very inception and implores Corellin to preserve something from the planet to ensure humanity's enduring memory. Shortly after, Milo finds Jennifer, the last remaining child, gathering energy from what's left of the Earth. The ground beneath Milo begins to crumble, and fear grips him. In the final scene, Milo begs the Overlords to at least safeguard a memento. In response, they play him his memories, allowing him to retrieve his life, sounds, visions, and feelings. And for that brief moment, right before the world explodes, Milo goes back to a simpler time, a world without utopia. Finally, the planet erupts into countless fiery fragments, while the Overlords fly away. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.